Steelers have found their next superstar in the NFL draft. My name is Peyton Kleppy. On today's episode of Steelers Digest, we'll be breaking down the latest Pittsburgh Steelers analysis and news regarding the Pittsburgh Steelers football team. As Pittsburgh Steelers look to add more and more talent to their defense, they add a ton of defensive talent in the NFL draft. Before we get into the latest reports, you guys are not already currently subscribed, just click that subscribe button down below. Only 9% of our current viewers are actually currently subscribed. So if you click that subscribe button, we're going to get you guys the latest Pittsburgh Steelers news every single day. Let's get right into it. We got a ton to talk about. Pittsburgh Steelers have added a national college football champion in Jack Sawyer to our defense in the NFL draft. You know, the Pittsburgh Steelers selected this guy, and I believe the fourth round of the NFL draft. There's a guy who, like I said, he's coming off of a national championship win at the college level. He also did play with our sixth round pick, Will Howard, who's another guy who I believe has a ton of potential and can develop into possibly our next franchise starter in the next couple years. But I do believe Aaron Rodgers is going to come to Pittsburgh. I did see today that there are reports that he could be getting possibly married. You know, he was spotted with a wedding ring at the Kentucky Derby, so he could be getting married, or it could be just one of Aaron Rodgers' one of his new drama stories just to add to his ego. I have no clue, but I do expect him to get signed by the Pittsburgh Steelers in the next couple weeks before training camp does indeed start. But back to it, Jack Sawyer. This is a guy that had 9 sacks last year. He was a leader of that Ohio State Buckeyes defense, and this is a guy that's going to come in alongside one of the best defensive players we've had in the NFL in the past 10 years. Yes, I'm talking about TJ Watt. You know, this is a guy that won Defensive Player in 2021. He's probably been the best Steeler in the last 10 years, you know, other than Big Ben and actually Cam Hayward. I'm very sorry about him as well. But other than those two guys, it's really been TJ Watt. This guy has been Mr. Consistent in Pittsburgh, you know. Other than that 2022 season, I believe, where he did miss some games due to a torn pec. This guy has had double-digit sacks in every other season, you know. He had that 22, should have been 23 and a half sack season, and that Defensive Player of the Year run in 2021, where this guy was at the top of his game, you know. And earlier on in his career, this guy was definitely overshadowed by guys like Aaron Donald, who, that guy was a beast. He was top of his position. He also played a different position that when you have a lot of success at that defensive line position like he did, you definitely get a lot more votes than an edge rusher like TJ Watt, who still did have a ton of success, but, might not get that recognition. But obviously, TJ Watt is getting older, so the Pittsburgh Steelers have looked to draft, I don't want to say his replacement, but I guess little students for him in the past couple of years. Obviously, we drafted Alex Highsmith a few years ago, who has been the number 2 linebacker spot, the right outside linebacker spot, who was originally held by Bud Dupree alongside TJ. Obviously, Bud went to Tennessee. He's become an NFL journeyman. Alex Highsmith has slid in there, played very nice, but we also do have a guy in Nick Herbig, who we drafted out of Wisconsin a few years ago. He's had a ton of success since he's come into the league as a rotational piece for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And, Nick Herbig is a guy that I do believe could probably start on another team like the New York Giants or a team like the Jacksonville Jaguars, who just doesn't have a lot of talent on defense. Obviously, I wouldn't want him to go to a team like that. I do like Nick Herbig a lot, and I do appreciate his service in Pittsburgh. Like I said, this guy's been a beast since coming into Pittsburgh. Obviously, learning from TJ Watt, the master of the pass rush game, the samurai of the pass rush game. Obviously, Nick Herbig has learned a lot. This guy's become a strip sack specialist in the NFL since he's coming into the league. Last year, I do believe he had around 5.5 sacks with 3 or 4 forced fumbles to go along with it. I believe him and TJ at one point, or maybe did finish the season with it, but I know they were tied for forced fumbles in the league. I think TJ finished with tied for most, but I know Nick Herbig also had 3 or 4. So that's definitely impressive for a guy that does not see the field a lot. But obviously, this guy could not do this alone. He definitely had to learn from guys like TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. So, adding a guy like Jack Sawyer to our Pittsburgh Steelers defense definitely is very promising for us. This is a guy that has been a leader at all levels of the game, and he's coming into an organization who loves to develop young players into, starting caliber players, and is looking to have a player like Jack Sawyer who can play on special teams, but also come in on some first and second downs where TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith is tired. Have him play that outside linebacker role alongside Nick Herbig. It kind of eliminates the need for a veteran edge rusher. The Pittsburgh Steelers past couple years have also brought in a third veteran edge rusher the past couple years, and a guy like Marcus Golden, Melvin Ingram a few years ago. So that kind of eliminates that need for the Pittsburgh Steelers as you bring in a guy like Jack Sawyer. If this guy can stay healthy, knock on wood, and he can learn from TJ Watt, Nick Herbig, and Alex Highsmith, I do believe this guy's going to have a bright future in the NFL. Obviously, he had a ton of great coaching at Ohio State, and he's coming out of Ohio State with his buddy Will Howard. So two guys on the offense and defense who can kind of connect with each other, help each other out their rookie year and learn from each other. These guys are probably going to be going one-on-one against each other on that scout team. Obviously they're probably not going to be starters day one, but in training camp, these guys are going to have to go up against each other. So that definitely will be something cool to watch. Two Ohio State Buckeye probably legends. These guys did win a national championship together, but they will be going against each other on that scout defense. So it is very exciting that the Pittsburgh Steelers did end up with a guy like Jack Sawyer as well as Will Howard, because these are guys that they already have proven that they have been leaders in college and obviously high school as well. And, they definitely have a lot more room to grow as they reach the NFLs, as they hit that pro level. But, they're coming into a situation where it's probably the best situation for both guys. They're coming out of Ohio where obviously nothing's going on. Ohio's pretty terrible. You wouldn't want to go to the Browns. You wouldn't want to go to the Bengals. So Pittsburgh Steelers is your best bet. And the Pittsburgh Steelers defense is our history. Our history is outside linebackers. So obviously this is linebacker university. This is where you want to go. And Jack Sawyer, I think he found a great home in Pittsburgh. And obviously, like I said, alongside guys like TJ Watt, who we probably will look to sign to an extension this offseason. Keep him in the black and gold for the rest of his career. This is a guy that Omar Khan has said he wants to be a Steeler for life. So hopefully we can get that done. But obviously, at the end of the day, it's all about the money. So that's why we did bring in a guy like Nick Herbig and a guy like Jack Sawyer, who's just going to complement our defense. And, if TJ Watt evidently does leave, which I really hope he does not, we will have a backup plan in a guy like Nick Herbig or in a guy like, Jack Sawyer, who's going to come in. He's a young guy. He's going to be under contract for the next 4 years. And if he can develop into a strong edge rusher for the Pittsburgh Steelers, the ceiling for this guy, I don't see his ceiling. He could end up being a very strong defensive presence alongside his first-round pick buddy, Derek Harmon, who I do look to have a ton of success in the early stages of his NFL career. Unfortunately, that is all I have for you guys tonight on Steelers Digest. If you guys are not already currently subscribed, click that subscribe button down below. Thank you so much. Here we go, Steelers. Peace out, boys.